it a go.
Okay. Hello, my name is John Teagarden with Midwest Adaptive Sports, and we are starting this new program called Talking Adaptive Sports. We do some Zoom interviews with people in the adaptive sports world here locally in Kansas City, across the country, and potentially across the world. Today, I am joined by Bill Brooks, who is the president and co-founder of Midwest Adaptive Sports. Hey, Bill, how are you doing?
All right, how are you today?
Good, good. So, Midwest Adaptive Sports, president, co-founder. How did you get involved in getting this whole thing started?
It was through the ski industry. I had been working at Snow Creek ski area outside of Weston, Missouri there, which is outside of the Kansas City area, and started off in rental as an employee assistant manager eventually, and helping get adaptive equipment down whenever athletes came out. And then whenever I moved out into ski school and become a ski instructor, kind of naturally started getting involved in the adaptive lessons, doing adaptive clinics and things. And sometimes it was the case may be whenever you're of a decent size, sometimes you get drafted into helping. And that was kind of what happened because, adaptive athletes sometimes aren't small. From a Down syndrome standpoint, and then also the equipment weighs a little bit, and then whenever you throw an additional body in there, it's fairly heavy and cumbersome to move around and assist the athletes. So kind of started getting into that, and then started doing more adaptive lessons in the ski school. Then after a few years, National Sports Center for the Disabled opened up an office in Kansas City, found out about the program at Snow Creek, and offered to become involved with it, and actually ended up taking it over. So for 3 to 5 years, I can't recall exactly the number of years, maybe even 5 or 6, was part of NSCD in Winter Park, Colorado, and Denver, Colorado. Was actually an employee of theirs for a little bit, doing adaptive lessons here. We do training in Colorado as well. And then kind of the after effects of the 2008, 2009 financial crisis, NSCD retrenched, kind of adjusted their focus and their goals, and ended up shutting down all of their satellite offices, or at least the one in Kansas City. And I think they did all the other ones as well after they kind of went on a little bit of an expansion phase. So we were left in a lurch with what to do with our adaptive program, since it was underneath a nonprofit. We had a core group of really good folks helping us out, and we looked at various options, and ultimately decided that really the 3 options we had with the ski program, that probably starting our own nonprofit to focus on that would be the best thing to do. So in October of 2011, Midwest Adaptive Sports was incorporated in the state of Missouri, and we've been going ever since. And like I say, for the first few years, it was solely focused on that ski area, skiing and snowboarding operations, and then since then it's kind of expanded.
Okay, yeah. So how did that sort of expand? It's like 3 years later, it expanded.
Yeah, it was 3 to 4 years later. We had some folks approach us who were looking to start up, and we're actually doing wheelchair rugby, quad rugby. And they had, investigated starting their own nonprofit, but then also were looking for other folks to kind of partner with. So they came in late in the year, I think, like at a November board meeting of ours in 2014, I believe it was, or maybe it was 15. And, we just kind of got to know each other and found out what their goals and what they wanted to achieve, and they found out about us, and everybody was of like mind. Because whenever we formed Midwest Adaptive Sports, we knew at some point in time it was going to move beyond just skiing and snowboarding, that we wanted to get to that point where it would be year-round programming, somewhat patterned after National Sports Center, for the disabled, with, of course, different sports because of the different geographic locations we're in. But we knew that we wanted to be able to start providing those opportunities, for athletes to get involved with adaptive sports. So it worked out really well. Everybody got along good. And so they became a part of Midwest Adaptive Sports at that time. And then how those things work out is that, once you start this ball rolling downhill, it really starts to expand. And that's what happened, where one of the rugby players knew a basketball player, and then that led us into wheelchair basketball, and then there was softball players, which led us into wheelchair softball. So it just kind of continued to grow upon itself as you got out, and more folks became exposed to your program or got to know it, and they wanted to do different sports. So when we start off, really didn't anticipate or hadn't really thought about the team aspect becoming such a large part of what our organization does. But it's been great. It's worked out really well, and probably makes us a little bit unique throughout the country in the fact that we do offer year-round programming, and we offer it across such a wide variety of sports, and especially in the team setup, because it seems like most groups that are out there, they might be involved in one sport exclusively, and then there's another group maybe in that same area that's offering another or different type of team sport. And so I think that makes us a little bit unique, and gives us a great chance to provide a lot of opportunities for folks, because not everybody wants to do the same athletic event.
Right. And when I came on with the softball program, I know kind of one of the rules, so to speak, is if you want to bring a program on board, you have to run that program and manage that program. And that seems to work pretty well, I think, don't you?
Yeah, and it's as much a case that's the circumstances that we operate under. We've become a fairly large organization, and we're still pretty much done on a volunteer basis. And so it's always been one of those. And anybody involved in the nonprofit world knows that resources are always at a premium, whether it's capital or human. And and so it was one of those things that you would have people come and say, hey, do you guys do this? And a lot of times it'd be no. Well, would you be interested in it? It's like, well, if you'll run it, because we just don't have the additional manpower to expand that. So yeah, so far that's worked pretty well, because one, it brings more resources in, it brings more folks in, and like I say, and then that helps us out, because then it starts expanding that potential volunteer base and exposure for the different sports. So it's worked out pretty well. We are getting to that point where we can continue to do that and still operate underneath the same model.
Okay. And you just added wheelchair football.
Right. Yeah. One of the things that, as is the case for, us, we took a little while, but at that time we became a member of Disabled Sports USA for a couple of different reasons. One, because they're a really good organization, that's out there that helps out a lot of adaptive groups throughout the country. And so we wanted to be a part of that and gain access to that expertise and education information. And then also, from a financial standpoint, the ski and snowboard program is not one that a lot of people want to be involved with from an insurance standpoint. And so by, becoming a member of this DSUSA, which is now Move United, that allowed us to, provide that insurance coverage for not only our ski and snowboard, but then also all of our programs provided a lot of resources for us. And one of those things that did come along was, late in 2018, received a message wanting to know if we would be interested in wheelchair football, and that there was a program that was getting started in partnership with the NFL and in their Salute to Service program. And of course, here in Kansas City, it's football is a pretty big deal. Not as big as probably what you get in some states in the South, Southeast, but it's still a pretty big deal. And with the Kansas City Chiefs here, made it a natural fit. A lot of our volunteers, a lot of our athletes have played football in the past before maybe they got injured. And so it was another additional competitive outlet for us. And so we, immediately, signed up on that along with 3 other chapters across the country. And, really we're looking forward to getting that season up and running here this year. But, of course, COVID-19 put the kibosh on a lot of our activities, with that and a lot of the tournaments that our athletes, haven't been able to go to. But, I believe that that's going to be a very successful program that's going to open up and already has opened up new athletes that have been exposed to our program because of their, love of the game of football and the desire to get back out there and play football. And so it's not only going to be a wonderful program for our athletes that, already know about us, but it's going to expose other folks out there who maybe have been injured or have a disability and, and didn't play basketball in high school, or didn't play baseball or something like that, but maybe they did play football or they didn't and they want to. And so I think it's going to really expose and open up a whole new area for us from an athlete standpoint. And then, once the athletes come in and they start playing football and they see the other programs that we've got going on and the folks we have that are involved with those, it naturally brings them in where it increases our participation in our other sports that we have out there. So it should be a really good program for us.
Yeah. You're signed up to be a referee, is that right?
Right. Yeah, have been a state high school football official since 1997 here in the state of Missouri. I've been fortunate to work a couple of state championship games. And whenever this opportunity came up, not only from, the administrative standpoint of, as president of, Midwest Adaptive, but also as a, football official, wanted to lend that and volunteer my time on that. So went through the registration process. And, once we get to the point where we can start having games, we'll, be able to hopefully be out there to, help officiate those games and participate in that. And I've got a handful of other folks, officials here in the Kansas City area, all the way up into northern Missouri that have, offered up and have gotten registered to help out. So, and in the wheelchair football, it is, it's a Salute to Service program. So it's really focused in on veterans. It's open to anybody, but, that's also a big drawing card for folks that, have that ability to go out and help, provide athletic opportunities to those who have served and maybe have been injured through their service or even not, but it provides a good opportunity for them, to give back to those that, help protect the country.
Right. Okay. So you guys have been around for about 10 years, just starting off with skiing, but now things are really expanding. You're still all volunteer based, and you just added a program that you've been helping out with the Day at the Lake. And now you're kind of taking that over, right?
Right. Yeah. We've offered adaptive water skiing off and on almost from our inception. Those were always just maybe a little bit of a one-off program. In years past, before Midwest Adaptive was established, there was some adaptive water skiing that took place in the Kansas City metro area. So there was some experience, there was equipment available. And so we would do some things, and Day at the Lake was one of those events. believe it's going to be its 26th or 7th year, 28th year, something like that. It's been around for a long time. Was originally, I believe, started up by the Rehabilitation Institute of Kansas City, and then they merged with the Learning Center to become Ability KC, and they've sponsored it the last few years, but they're looking to kind of go a different direction with their resources and things. And so because we did provide equipment and provide a lot of volunteers to that, it was a natural fit for them to approach us about potentially taking over, or at least partnering with them. And it does look like that with their organization, the focus that they've got, that we're going to be the lead organization on that event. And, a lot of their, the Ability KC folks will still remain involved as volunteers for Midwest Adaptive, and will be, helping out with that and actually leading, that program. And, it's held at Smithville Lake every July. And so hopefully we'll be able to get it pulled off this year. We couldn't, or in 2021, we weren't able to pull it off in 2020 because of COVID. But hopefully we'll be able to get out there and do that. So that'll be another big undertaking. Typically 50 or so athletes come out and enjoy a day, getting out and water skiing, a little bit of maybe paddle boarding if they can. There's some pontoon boat rides and things like that. So it's a really nice day, for folks to come out and enjoy getting out on the water and do something that not many folks do, period, but then especially in the adaptive world because of the extra precautions we need to take.
Right. Yeah. I've been out there a couple times, and it's a great event. A lot of people have been recruited that go to that event. As far as the sports teams, they'll come out and start talking to people and getting involved in softball and basketball, or I guess now football. So that's always been a great event.
Yeah, and it's one that exposes the athletic side of the world to folks, and they're able to see what can be done on the water, but then also they get that exposure talking to other athletes that are there that participate in the other adaptive sports out there. So it's really a good recruiting tool, and providing that information to show them that, or let them know that there's a lot of programs out there if they're really interested in, pursuing some athletic events, whether it's recreational competition, either one. We do both of those out there. We've got some really good competitive teams, but we also just go out there and do it for the fun of it as well.
Yeah. And you do some hand cycling and I believe some skateboarding.
We've struggled to get hand cycling is always one that people want to be involved with, but it's always hard to get that up because of the equipment and the level of physical fitness it takes. But we've been working with Cycle KC, and it's a group here in the Kansas City area about starting to do some rides. Of course, like I said, nothing's really come to pass on that yet because of pandemic restrictions and things like that. We're hopeful maybe in 2021 we'll be able to start getting that up and running a little bit. And then we do have a group here in the metro area that does some longboarding on skateboarding, and they meet every once in a while in one of the parks in the metro area. And so there are 3 times this past summer, one Sunday afternoon in June, July, and August, opened that up and invited adaptive athletes to come in and try out the skateboarding, and it seemed to be well received and well attended. And so that's another outlet that it's not, I guess what people would maybe say is a mainstream sport, but it's one that folks have an interest in, and if they do, we want to be able to provide that opportunity for them to pursue that.
Right. Yeah. Okay. The one program we haven't mentioned yet was your Educate the Educators. Kind of tell everybody about that a little bit and how that. I know this year you haven't been able to do it, but
yeah, that has been a real successful program. One of our board members, Stan Weston, retired high school baseball coach and physical education instructor in the St. Joseph, Missouri area, came up with the idea, based upon some other programs that he had seen in action, and we're able to secure some grant funding and go into middle schools and high schools and take over their physical education classes for the day. Midwest Adaptive Sports owns some of our own sports chairs, and then we borrow chairs from Northwest Missouri State up in Maryville, Missouri, and take those into the schools and allow the students to have the opportunity to see what it's like to play wheelchair basketball and other wheelchair athletic events, as well as also participate in some visually impaired activities as well. We have goggles that have been blocked out and to remove the ability to see, so they get the opportunity to maybe try out goal ball, see what it's like to shoot a basketball with nothing but a beeping noise to guide where the shot is going to go. And it's been a real popular program. A lot of schools like that, which of course, sometimes it raises awareness and it's a popular program with the students as well. So we weren't able to go or get into any schools yet. A lot of schools still aren't, even open. We were able to do some in the spring before, things started shutting down. But there's some pent-up demand, and like I say, and it provides not only that opportunity for them to experience the athletic side of it, but then also get exposed to kind of the day-to-day conditions and challenges that somebody that's in a wheelchair have. And I know that I went and helped out with a couple of those, and for the most part, a lot of folks, their experience with a wheelchair is that they have an older adult relative who's in a wheelchair, and that's because more of a health reason as opposed to an injury, and they're definitely usually not participating in any athletics. So it's, I think, a real eye opener for the students, and probably it's an eye opener for the instructors at the schools as well. So it just raises awareness and creates some goodwill out there within the communities that we've went into in the Kansas City and St. Joseph areas.
Okay, yeah, and I think there's been you've gone to a couple of schools that some of our junior athletes attend, and I think that's a real good thing for their classmates to see, them being able to participate on a high level in a sport like wheelchair basketball.
Yeah, it gives them that opportunity to. It gives them that opportunity to experience it. I mean, they can see, the athlete, rolling around the school. They can see them, participating or doing things, but then, you really can't get a good understanding of it unless if you get in the chair yourself and are there for a little while about, what muscles you have to move and how, physically demanding it is to, push yourself around. And once they do that, I do believe it gives them a greater understanding of those challenges, that those athletes go through. But then also it shows them that, it's a challenge, but it's not something that's insurmountable, and hopefully gives them, a little better appreciation for what they have, and then what adaptive athletes go through.
Right. Yeah. Now you're married, and how many kids do you have? You have Evan and
just one? And Nathan. We've got two boys.
Okay.
Nathan's the oldest one. So my wife helps out with the adaptive program. She's a manager. This past earlier this year in 2020, we purchased a kayak and paddleboard business to expand our offerings in the adaptive water sports area. And we don't have programming every weekend or every day, and it's a commercial business, and so she's the manager of that, and it did really well this year, probably partially helped by COVID pandemic, putting people in a position where they just want to get out and do anything. we hope that it'll continue on that, but it also gives us access to that equipment. We'll use some of that equipment a day at the lake, and then with some of our other water abilities there. And then, you mentioned Evan, youngest son. He has been an adaptive ski instructor. He actually lived in Colorado for 5 years, and for 3 of those helped out at NSCD as an adaptive ski instructor out in Winter Park, Colorado. And then whenever we've hosted the National Wheelchair Softball Association's World Series in 17 or 18, 19, he was our driver, or one of our drivers, to help haul around and transport Team Japan from their hotel to game sites and other areas. So it's really helped out quite a bit. So
yeah, that was a pretty fun experience there. That the World Series, hosting that World Series, and I was on a few of those trips, taking Japan to the Chiefs game and Royals game, and all over. So
yeah, that
I know he's very helpful with
that. Yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, it was a lot of work, but it was fun, and
a lot of work.
I believe for the most part, everybody really enjoyed it and appreciated our efforts on putting that together, and that's helped lead us to get a dedicated wheelchair softball field within the Kansas City Park and Rec system at Pleasant Valley Park. So, those things have kind of built upon that, and that exposure that we gained by hosting that and doing as well as we did with, the help of you and all the volunteers that we had out there is, really provided us some opportunities to enhance our programming efforts out there. And I think we'll be able to continue to build upon that and get some additional fields. And also the wheelchair football is going to help out, I think, with that as well. So with that, but that was a fun experience. You kind of wondered whether you could pull it off or not, and
right.
Of course there were hiccups, but all in all, it went pretty well, I believe.
Yeah, and now we're being approached by I think the Quad Rugby Association. We did a regional here in Kansas City, and I believe the National Wheelchair Basketball Association has approached us a couple times about hosting a major tournament.
Yeah, I think that our efforts in hosting the World Series and the growth that we've had, and I believe we've got a good reputation throughout the adaptive world. And then we have essentially 2 locations. One is my home office, where we kind of got our start at, which is in a small rural community halfway between Kansas City and St. Joe. But then we also have an office, and our basketball rugby teams practice at what now is the Hy-Vee Arena. Used to be Kemper Arena, and it was refurbished into a multi-sports facility. And that's where the rugby tournament was able to be held. So it's a nice centralized location with a lot of courts on it, and helps out. And we are in that position that we are geographically benefited by the fact that we're in the middle part of the country. Makes travel to the Kansas City area easy. You don't have a real long flight coming in from either side of the country. And a lot of folks can drive because we are right here in the middle of the country. And then we've got, good facilities available to us. And we continue to, work on adding to those facilities there. So I think that we can, eventually get to that point where, on a continuing basis, we're offering, opportunities for folks to come into the Kansas City area and host regional and national sporting events, as we move forward, whether it's, rugby, another World Series, football, wheelchair football tournament, or National Wheelchair Basketball Association, tournaments, regional tournaments, and things like that. So there's a lot of good potential and good possibilities out there to just continue to raise awareness about adaptive sports, and especially here in the Kansas City metro area.
Okay. So what's next for Midwest Adaptive? What's on your short list of, kind of on a pause on growing right now? I know it's been happening kind of fast, but
Yeah, it's one of those things that, we aren't, I guess, actively pursuing, much out there because of COVID. And then also we're kind of, pretty busy right now. But, the day at the lake, having that underneath our umbrella will be new. Like I say, fortunately, the folks that have been heavily involved with that and managing that program for Ability KC are there to help us out with that and do that. So that'll be a new thing for us that we'll be more involved with, maybe more from an administrative standpoint than anything, because we have provided a lot of volunteers and a lot of the equipment for that. And then the wheelchair football, seeing it finally get off the ground, hopefully maybe next spring with some tournaments. That'll be good. We're looking to, hopefully maybe start offering or help assisting in building some opportunities for wheelchair basketball athletes to have more opportunities at the university college level, attempting to talk with, one or two of the universities in the Midwest here about starting up programs. We've got a really good program at the University of Missouri in Columbia that a couple of our board members played at, but we don't have, many more offerings besides that, especially at lower pricing points that you might get with a smaller, what would be referred to maybe as a Division II or Division III NCAA school. So we're looking at, potentially doing that, plus then, continuing to work with Kansas City, Missouri Park and Rec on building additional athletic fields. So we could maybe, host bigger tournaments for softball, have a better place to practice for football out there, and then potentially host, a football tournament there next year. So because where we live at, we've been a little bit more open as far as our activities go than what some of the other locations around the country have been. So we've been able to practice more, we've been able to do more out there, and I anticipate that will continue as we go into 2021. And if folks are willing, hopefully we'll be able to do that. I mean, we had a really good turnout whenever the new softball field was dedicated, and had folks come in from various locations, at least here through the Midwest. So we know that there's that pent up demand, to get out and participate in events, participate in tournaments. So I think there's going to be some good opportunities to do that. And beyond that, we're not really there, but we're always open to folks, as you mentioned, if somebody has a program that they want to get up and running. We're always willing to listen, and especially if they're ready to kind of step up and manage the program or help build it up in there. One might be track and field. That's been brought up a couple of times. And we need to find out, like I say, a lot of it will depend on what's going on. We were also supposed to help out with the Korea Parasport Association, was to have a big athletic event this past June in the Johnson County area of the metro region on the Kansas side. And of course, that didn't come to pass, but they were looking to bring in athletes from all over the country and as well as Korea, to that. And we were going to help out with that. So that's potentially on the docket, as we go into 2021, but we'll have to wait and find out. And that be another good event. It helps out from a competitive athlete standpoint, and provides opportunities for those of Korean descent here in the States and around the world, but then also provides us the opportunity to build up our teams by gaining exposure into a segment of the population that we aren't really heavily involved with yet.
Okay, great. So if somebody wants to help out, volunteer, or get involved in a team or activity, they just go to the website?
Yeah, we've got a website, MidwestAdaptiveSports.org. It's kind of a long one, but it says who we are, and it's pretty easy to find. We also have some Facebook pages out there, not only a Midwest Adaptive one, but then some of our teams, rugby, wheelchair, basketball, softball, all have Facebook pages. as well. So, and all of our contact information is on the website, as far as email address and phone numbers. So that would be the easiest way to get a hold of us.
Okay. And I assume that you'll take on any sponsors that want to donate some money
Oh
to
yeah,
the program?
it's like, yeah, any, you have to be judicious in who you take on, but you're, in the nonprofit world, you're always running short of resources, it seems like. So any support we can get is always appreciated, whether it's new volunteers or, new sponsors that, help us out financially or with in-kind donations, are always appreciated.
Okay. Okay. Well, Bill, is there anything else you want to
No,
talk about?
I believe we've done a good job covering the organization and everything. So I think
Okay.
I don't have anything else to add.
Okay. Well, great. Appreciate you being on, and hopefully we'll get this out to a lot of people and they can see exactly what Midwest Adaptive Sports is about, and start watching our Zoom meetings here.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming up with the idea and doing it. So it is a good way to get out the exposure out there, or another way,
Right.
for us.
Absolutely.
So hopefully folks will enjoy it. And then once we're able to get out on the slopes and get in the courts and out on the field a little bit more, I'm sure we'll be able to, expand what we can show everybody about what's going on and highlight our athletes as well, because that's the important part.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, I'm going to stop the recording here, but Bill, hang on for a second and we'll talk a little bit more afterwards.
Yeah.
Thanks. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching this. We'll continue having these probably about once a month or something like that. So hopefully you continue watching. Thanks. Bye-bye.